Good evening, everyone. Not evening. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah. Welcome to our lecture today on production design. Yeah, what we're doing here is to give an overview what the production design is. This is a very underrated role of filmmaking. So first up, I'm just gonna give you a video on what production design entails. And thereafter, I'll give you another one that gives you a brief overview on the importance of production design. And then also production designers, as we know that most of films, they come at a price tag, and production designers are quite pricey. And you as an emerging filmmaker starting up in film, and if say you want to produce your own like small budget film or shoestring budget film, when you cannot afford the production design, this is what you have to do. That's an account from the director, Stanley Kubrick. And then lastly, I'm going to share with you how you're gonna break into this industry of filmmaking. This is very tough industry because there are people who are much more experienced than you, and as you are fresh from the film school and you haven't done some a considerable amount of work. So and some of these guys in the industry already, they have decades of experience, which surpasses you. And yeah, but anyways, it's not difficult to get into the industry. It is possible and it's doable. Yeah, without further ado, yeah, I would love if you've been here. This session, I was supposed to get you an experienced a production designer who I have worked with in my pressure from Maluku Manu. When was it? That's 2023. Yes. Yeah. I think I will give you. I'll make something for you to see what she did on that film. Yeah, and yeah, people are quite busy these days. It's very difficult to get hold of them, especially if they are going to do pro bono work, like even sharing with you guys is her experiences in the industry, because Nafron here, it was not her first film. She's very experienced. Yeah, but anyway, we didn't get all of her. Yeah, let's dive into what we can easily get hold of at the moment is our video here. Let me share this one here. So yeah, I say. Oh, I'm gonna minimize myself there and maximize this one, and we can
Films are made up of sequences. Sequences are made up of scenes. And scenes are made up of shots. In previous episodes, we covered composition, animation, and sound. In this episode, we will dive into the world of production design. You walk onto these sets and it instantly just brings a smile to your face. This is episode 19 of The Shot List. Production design. Before we start building sets, subscribe to Studio Binder and enable notifications to check out each of our new videos. Now, open your lookbooks to page 1. Production design refers to the physical appearance of a film. It establishes location and time period, and deeply influences tone, mood, story, and character. The field is massively important to how a film looks, and yet it is often under-discussed and appreciated. Production designer Rick Carter explains his job.
It's not something that people who don't make movies really can see. You can hear about it, and it's kind of interesting to see a set be built. You go, yeah, but who's in it? What's it about? That's all you want to know. And so our job, at least my job, and the art department is to explore a subject, make it as rich and detailed and authentic as possible. And something that the director and the actors and cinematography can all work with in order to create something that's an illusion that you believe.
The credit production designer was first given to William Cameron Mingus during his work on Gone with the Wind. But production design existed long before. Filmmakers borrowed heavily from the production design strategies developed in theatre in order to create convincing cinematic worlds. Today, production design can take many different forms, from the detailed construction of elaborate sets to the utilizing of real locations or building out CG landscapes. Production design is handled by the art department, which is overseen by the production designer, who works closely with the director and cinematographer to decide on and create the look of a film. The goal of a production designer is to create a believable world. This doesn't mean it needs to be realistic, but rather the perfect setting for the story that is being told, one that is immersive and situates an audience within the narrative. The first step to achieving this goal is research. A production designer's vision for a film's visual doesn't come out of thin air. First, a PD will do their own breakdown of the script. They will note locations, whether they are interior or exterior, props, mention of set decoration, vehicles, and general indications of. After this close reading, the production designer will talk with the director to make sure they are both on the same page about the film's look. Conversations will also likely happen with the film's producer, who can give the PD guidance on their budgets and other limitations. With this information, a production designer will then dive into extensive research, often creating mood boards that encapsulate their desired aesthetic. The PD can pull inspiration from just about anywhere. Photography, paintings, architecture, books, and other films may all appeal. For period films, the research is often even more demanding. Production designer Catherine Martin explains how she approached her work on The Great Gatsby.
There will be a slew of research done on who the author is, the context of the world, the period in which the book is setting, whether it's actually reading academic treaties, novels, looking at pictures in libraries, going to libraries, borrowing books, going online, actually physically scouting locations that existed in the period or possibly were references for Fitzgerald.
As the mood board is compiled, a production designer may work with a concept artist to create key frame illustrations, drawings of important settings. With materials assembled to guide the overall look of the film, it is time to begin figuring out how to achieve it. This often begins with location scouting. Welcome to Jurassic Park. Great production design can often boil down to choosing a great location. Often the easiest way to create a believable world is to shoot in a real location. For this reason, production designers can be an integral part of the location scouting process. The goal, of course, is to find the right setting for specific scenes, but PDs also usually have to consider logistical factors as well. Production designer Jack Fisk discusses his approach to location scouting for The Revenant.
I know that every location that I find, the primary view will be south or toward the sun. We shoot everything backlit. I know that on interiors, I need one source of light. If there's more than one source, he's going to block it out.
Locations are rarely perfect as is, and so production designers often need to find a space with the potential to fit a scene. For a period piece in New York, for example, a PD may look for a street that has as little modern architecture as possible, and then set about planning how they will further dress the street to look of a different time.
It turns out that this side of the river, particularly Hoboken, New Jersey, looks more like New York did than New York does now.
Typically, a location scout or locations manager will then be the one to negotiate the logistics with the owner of a space, ensuring the art department can do what they need to it in order to achieve their vision. Sometimes the line between real location and studio is blended. Wicked, for example, production designer Nathan Crowley used a real location where he planted 3 million tulips, combined it through CGI with the built set of Munchkin Land.
As they run from this landscape here, they appear here, and that is the link. I've got a great mixture here of imagery, both real, CGI, and that's where we start.
Sometimes a film calls for a location that needs to be built. This is where set design comes in. Before a set is built, it needs to be designed. The production designers have their vision for the set, which is typically represented in their mood boards and concept art. These concepts will then be handed over to the art director. The art director is second in command in the art department, and they oversee the process of making the PD's vision a reality, managing the logistics of creating the visuals. Production designer Janine Oppawall describes the role.
Art directors in general are working for and alongside production designers. We basically hire them to help us execute what has to be executed.
The art director, with the help of the set designer, often creates 3D models of a location, so that the PD, director, and cinematographer can see how a set will look before they break ground. After these designs are approved, they'll be translated to blueprints. When designing a set, emulating the production designer's vision is paramount. But other technical considerations need to be made as well. For example, where will light be placed in the set? How will the camera move through it? Production designer Adam Stockhausen discusses how he approaches planning sets for Wes Anderson's Asteroid City.
Part of that sort of forensic process of studying what exactly we need for each shot involved figuring out how the thing comes apart. The sides were made on hinges to open up. The whole thing has a steel skeleton to hold it together as the various component parts of it pop and move away. The window frames all remove very quickly. I think it's very normal to be making sets that float and break apart.
What was that? Another atom bomb test.
With the set designed, it must then be built. Depending on the scope of the project, the construction of a set can be a massive operation. It can involve construction coordinators, carpenters, scenic painters, plasterers, sculptors, and riggers who specialize in large structures or flying elements. Like with almost every element of filmmaking, how a set is built is a balance between aesthetic demand and logistical limitations. In the end, a set is made to service the film's objectives, not to be a complete structure or monument to stand the test of time. For example, if a film takes place in a few rooms in a house, the set built may just be those few rooms individually, rather than an entire house. Those rooms may not even have 4 walls. Even so, on larger films, sets can become sprawling. Dennis Gassner describes the set building process of Blade Runner 2049.
It was an arduous build because we built everything. Everything was built in obviously some way. There were a tremendous amount of, obviously the actors did the physical sets. We did miniatures and Weta in New Zealand. We used all the tricks.
Jack Fisk, meanwhile, is famous for building out sets as they would have been built in the time they're depicting. He explains his approach.
I build sets as real as possible. So when a cinematographer or director want to shoot 360, it's welcomed, because I want to build the whole set. I don't want to build a wall here and a wall there. Although I like the magic of cinema. My magic is that I can usually do stuff cheaper than anyone else by building it real.
After the long and hard work of building a set, it must be decorated. Set decoration is crucial to production design. The process is led by the set decorator, who sources and places the materials within the set. This job requires intense attention to detail, as well as a keen sense of the story being told, since often how a space is decorated can affect a scene's mood and deliver important pieces of information.
Bella's an adult, but she needed sort of soft corners and things that she couldn't hurt herself on. So her room is incredibly soft and very beautiful.
Set decorator Laurie Gaffin explains her role.
The psychology of each character that's written, how they live, where they live, what they do. You have to do tremendous research to create that character, and it's not always in the script.
The goal of a set decorator is to make a space feel real and lived in. This includes finding furniture, wall decor, textiles, and surface clutter like dishes, books, and trash. And, of course, their role isn't limited to build sets. A set decorator is vital to transforming existing locations to fit a film's needs. Decorators are typically aided by set dressers, who are tasked with physically installing all of the decorations. Set dressers are also present during production, so that if any decorations are altered or moved during or between takes, they can reset them to maintain continuity. These decorations, however, are not to be confused with props. A prop, short for property, is an object that is used by an actor during a scene. This differentiates it from a decoration, which is not directly engaged with by an actor. Props are overseen by the prop master, who ensures they are ready and maintained throughout the shoot. Like with decorations, a prop can tell an audience a lot of information. Say you're sourcing a stuffed animal prop for a character. Is it worn down and dirty? Or is it brand new? Is it cute or menacing? Often a production will have several copies in case one is damaged.
Once we produce a wand for a character, we have to produce at least 6. And if you take like Daniel's wand, the Harry's wands, we've probably produced over 70, 80 of those at least, because he wears them out.
Other elements of production design that actors are intimately acquainted with are costumes and makeup. Costumes are overseen by costume designers, but because they are integral to the overall look of a film, the production designer will often ensure they are in line with the rest of the palette. Costume designers and PDs will often work in tandem to create outfits and sets that complement each other, making sure both elements are conveying the same time period and mood, and don't have textures or colors that clash.
Each time I showed Director Ball any sort of saturated color, he wanted more gray in the overall crew and work. So we went with this color stacking theme of gray on gray. It's really unusual to deliberately do that. That can be like a moment of complete horror on a set when everybody arrives wearing the color of the sofa. But in our film, that was very deliberate.
The same goes for characters' hair and makeup. If a set is gothic and grayscale, for example, hair and makeup may work to bring that same tone to the actor. Most production designers are more hands-off with costume and makeup, perhaps giving the heads of the respective departments guidance, but letting them then experiment creatively within those aesthetic parameters.
What is this material? I love that. It's top.
I think. All of these elements, from location to makeup, need to be cognizant of color. A film's color palette and how it changes from scene to scene is largely dictated by production design. Pieces of set decoration, costuming, and more are carefully thought out on their own terms. They also need to come together to create a cohesive mix of color. Color is not just an aesthetic consideration. It can symbolize an idea or emotion, direct attention, and can enhance mood. Production designers may put together swatchboards of colors they want to be present throughout the mise-en-scène, and they will work closely with a cinematographer to decide on how coloring will be utilized and captured. Of course, a film doesn't need to have just one color palette. If done deliberately, it can change and evolve from scene to scene. Production designer Dante Ferretti discusses how color on The Aviator evolved with the DP shooting choices.
The first period, it's only two colors. Forget the blue because the blue became green. When I start to print in Technicolor, it became much sharp, the color, and very rich. So if you see the Coconut Grove in the first period, in the 30, it's completely different if you see in the 40.
Today, physical elements on set are often only one piece of a production designer's job. There are also VFX. It can be expensive to build massive sets, and sometimes it can be impossible to accomplish what a story demands practically. This is where digital effects are used. Much of the VFX designing process is similar for a movie, starting with mood boards and research, then illustrations, and more detailed planning. The production designer will work closely with VFX teams to ensure that built sets blend seamlessly with digital environments. Rick Carter explains.
Often into post, I'm called in, not on full time all the time, but a lot of the, to go all the way through to make sure the look that we've established at the beginning is being carried over, and that the ideas are still there and not kind of put through so many different people that you lose, sight of what's important.
Production designers in their art departments may not get as much attention as directors or even cinematographers, but their role is integral to the final look. After all, a shot can only look as good as what's in it. Great production design needs a lot of planning. Get started with Studio Binder's pre-production services, which include software for mood boards and storyboarding. Until next time, good luck building your next world.
That's it for now, folks. We are done with this production design overview of our lesson today. Yeah. Now, let's quickly have a look at what production design entails, and rather how important, what is the importance of production design. So let's have a quick look at the production design and how important is the production design. Let's share with you this video here. Okay, yes, that's a very short one. Okay. Well, let's take it away.
Hello everyone, I'm Ivan Kander with Short of the Week, the leading curator of short films on the internet. For us independent filmmakers, visually, when it comes to movies, we have one general goal. We want it to look like film. Well, fortunately, that's gotten easier. With more affordable, large sensor HD cameras and the popularization of DSLRs, for those on a budget, cinematic tropes have become easier than ever to achieve. You know what I'm talking about, shallow depth of field, increased dynamic range, etc. However, I wanted to talk today about one visual element of filmmaking that is often overlooked when it comes to short films, especially those on a budget: production design. As defined by the fine folks at the dictionary, production design is the overall look of a film that illustrates the setting and visual style of the story. It includes the design of the sets, location choices, costumes, and the choice and supervision of props. But why is this important? Well, to be specific, shallow depth of field ain't gonna matter much if all you're shooting in front of is a white wall. So many low-budget shorts feature people talking in boring-looking rooms, and let me tell you, that's just not cinematic. Next time you're watching a Hollywood film, pay attention to all the stuff that's happening in the background of the frame. Although it's not the center of attention, production design makes things interesting to look at, and oftentimes it can tell us more about the characters and their personalities. I mean, let's take a quick look at this screenshot from one of my favorite films of all time, Jurassic Park. In just one shot, we know everything we need to know about Dennis Nedry's character. He's a slob, he's brilliant. I mean, look at all that fancy code on the screen behind him. More importantly, it's evident he just doesn't care about his work environment, as is shown by his general disorganization. For more examples, Wes Anderson films are especially known for their unique production design, building entire worlds just through the use of well-constructed sets and awesome prop selection. Danny Boyle is another mainstream director who's known for his production design. often choosing incredibly unique locations to fill out his films. But what about the world of shorts? Well, the master of production design when it comes to shorts is filmmaker Jamie Travis. Like Wes Anderson, Travis has a precise eye for visual detail that is uncanny. To see what I mean, just watch The Saddest Boy in the World, one of 3 films in Travis's Sad Children trilogy. Being that it's so pronounced, the production design actually becomes the character in Travis's films. It's impossible not to notice, and thus the films are given this dollhouse-like feel, something that is both real and fake at the same time. But how about us low-budget folks? Well, to you I say, check out the work of Connor and Tyler Bird of Rudder Films. Tyler and Connor have meticulously designed their shorts visually, choosing specific props and colors to really give their shorts a great old-fashioned comedic tone. And they do it without breaking the bank. Unfortunately, their work isn't available on YouTube, but you can watch several of their shorts in their entirety on Vimeo. I've included links in the description. And check out Fran's Daughter from director Eric F. Martin, a film that played South by Southwest in 2011. This is a drama that takes place in one cramped location and is entirely dependent on dialogue, but Martin amps up his visuals in other interesting ways by perfectly utilizing production design. The furniture is well chosen, to be sure, but beyond that, check out the wallpaper. It's subtle enough to not be distracting, but it really cultivates a strong visual world. Seriously, if I can offer advice to aspiring filmmakers, spend less time worrying about what camera you're going to be shooting on, and instead really work on developing your story visually in other ways, from location selection to costumes to the props that fill out your frame. It's far too often overlooked in low-budget productions. Now, if you have other examples of great production design in shorts, share them in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe to this channel for more filmmaking tips and custom short film playlists.
Thank you, folks. This was a quick one, and let's us move on to the next one. So that one is Stanley Kubrick. Just a brief overview of what can you do if you cannot afford a production designer, and yeah, you can't afford a production designer. What can you do? Okay, this is the one that we also need to look at, so it we can get a brief overview of. Okay, let's just got it. Okay, now I got it. I got it. Okay, let's just share this one. This is the very short one. Am I offline? I'm not. I'm not offline. I say, let's take it away.
If you're watching this, you probably can't afford a Ken Adam or a John Barry to design your set. That doesn't mean you should completely ignore the endeavor altogether. The point of all of this is to create a look and keep the audience visually engaged. The look should complement or contrast your characters and story. There are elements of design that you should be aware of. Line, shape, color, texture, space, proportion. You should use these elements to create things like balance, unity, movement, and emphasis. Here are some tips to keep in mind when designing your magnum opus. Once you have your location locked, clean it up a bit. Your location may have existing furniture and things, but take all the random stuff out of it. It's much easier to paint a relatively blank canvas. Then you can move on to the details. This means props. You can rent them from prop houses, or you can grab stuff from swap meet or flea market. Even 99-cent stores can have some sweet deals. Though it's been said many times and in many ways, it bears repeating. Stay away from the walls. If you can't angle the furniture in a room to shoot into a corner, at least pull them out a bit to give you some more depth. Speaking of walls, save the white for the pages of your script. Throw up some wallpaper or paint if you can, of course, or at least some art. When it comes to lighting, be practical. Kubrick loved to show the sources that were lighting his subjects. In fact, this scene right here was lit completely by the candles that you see on the screen. Practical lights in a scene are almost instant depth and color. Just don't overdo it. Above all, keep it simple and always be deliberate. Your most important tools are your eyes and your common sense. Would it have made sense to see a painting from Barry Lyndon sitting next to Dave or Hal? An M16 in the middle of the Native American art at the Overlook Hotel? Make sure your story is still saying something, even when your characters aren't. Unless there's a point you're trying to get across.
Now, that's it for this one. Here now, folks. Okay, let's stop sharing this one. Yeah, this was a very quick one. Give us tips on how to do our production design. Yeah, without breaking a bank. Yes, so yeah, now I am going to share the video I'm going to share next is it talks about how to go about breaking into the industry. Yeah, on our next encounter, we shall get into this in more details, but the bottom line is create a solid body of work, create a portfolio. You can create a website as well, or a YouTube channel, or perhaps like a social media account. Yeah, so there are free websites that you can use, like Site123. You can even store your video footage there, and everything that you do from your assignment, your academic assignment, put it in there, and always be producing, like even on a small scale and on a zero budget. Yeah, but might be shooting something, so build your portfolio. Let's get into the video quickly. Yeah, and see how we can break into the industry. I see.
There are so many ways for you to carve out a career path in filmmaking. In fact, I already recorded this video, we edited it, and there was so much information, it was almost confusing. That's why we've actually created a downloadable PDF with these different career paths. This is, in our experience, different paths you can take to achieve your goal, different parts of the industry you can participate in, and kind of the different stages along the way and the pros and cons. So you can download that down below. These are actually all paths that I've taken at some point or another in my career, and they're all in service to making films. So let's jump into this and talk about a few of the top career paths in filmmaking. We'll start with what I'm going to call traditional. This is where you go to film school, you get an internship, and that internship sometimes turns into a job, and then you work your way up through that company, and eventually you perhaps pivot to other parts of the industry with the experience that you've gathered. I know this very well because I went to film school, I interned, and then I got a job, but then AI actually made that part of the industry irrelevant for me, which got me back into directing. You terminated. But that's another story for another day. The pro of this approach is that if you work hard and you're in the right film school, it can almost guarantee you a job once you've graduated. It may not be in the job you want, might be in traditional media, might be in a broadcast company, but the right schools have pathways to internships. So I know a ton of film schools who've actually reached out to us to have their students intern at AOD. It's not an option right now, I'm sorry. Unless you're a killer remote editor and want to move to Toronto, then send us your reel. But the con of this path is it's expensive. Film school costs tens of thousands of dollars. I was at an affordable subsidized film school here in Canada, and it still cost me, just for my tuition, about 9,000 Canadian per year. This didn't include the cost of my gear, cost of my computers, rent, and all of that. It's not cheap. By the time I was done, I probably spent somewhere close to $80,000 for just 3 years of film school. Of course, this is why we made AOD, so that you can get as much experience as film school and more for just a fraction of that price. And a lot of people in AOD mentioned that the first few videos of our course provide more information than they ever learned in film school. Moving on to point 2. This is what I would call the film job.
There's filmmakers, those are the creative roles, kind of the writers and directors and producers. But then another term I use is film workers, people who help support to create that vision. And there's a traditional path for this as well. This is where you gain some experience on some short films, volunteering on film-related projects, and then you go to a union to become an apprentice and work your way up in that skill set. This is often for camera people or art departments or the beloved sound recorders. And to all the sound recorders out there, I love you. Your work is incredible. The human voice is one of the most important parts of the film, and you certainly make it sound way better than I ever could. Make sure to check out our career map as we talk about the different stages while you're in that union. The pro of this is that you get tons of mentorship. You get tons of set experience, and you get to work with people who know way more than you. The con of this is that not only do you not have control of your schedule, you can end up on feature films that may sound like fun, but end up being 14-hour days. I've worked on feature films in IATSE. I used to be part of that union, and they were grueling times. Now, some people love this. They're obsessed with it. Personally, I like to have a little more control of my schedule. The pro, you do get to work in an amazing community, and you can build some lifelong friends. And if you've ever worked on a film, it does feel a bit like family by the end of it. But again, the con is you're always one job away from not having work, especially when there's strikes. Not only with that PDF, we're going to be doing a free career path building workshop. This is where you'll get live Q&A opportunity to talk about these different career paths, get some advice from different people who are experts in these fields, and learn about how to create a thriving career. We'll be putting a sign up for that as well, and it is free. Another career path is freelance. I did this for a while just as a director. I went from job to job and I would shoot some things for different companies. I was just a camera person trying to direct. Pro of this is you don't have many expenses. You're just working with other companies. You get to work on a variety of projects. When I was camera operating, I got to shoot different commercials practically every week. It was super fun. The con of this is that you have to be good at networking. You have to constantly be reaching out to production companies and producers, getting in front of them so that you can continue to work in that desired position. And you have to be working on your passion projects and getting your name out there if you're looking to be a DP or director. There's so much freedom as a freelancer, probably why the name free is in it. But with that freedom comes some uncertainty, which leads me to my next path. This is one that has a little more certainty if you're good at it. And this is the small business retainer approach. We teach this extensively in our Create and Earn course. This is when you're able to work with 1 to 3 businesses to help build their marketing and video content and have them at minimum on a 3-month contract. Pro of this is that you get a bit more predictable income. And if you're good at it and you can charge the rates that we recommend, if you have the approach and use our email templates, you can make up as much as $10,000 per month per company. The con of this is that it is a grind. You're essentially the video department, almost like an employee for multiple different companies. You need to be very available, you need to be on the phone with them often, and you have to be working with a lot of clients, which sometimes clients aren't so fun to work with. So you have to choose wisely. But people like the AOD co-founder, Michael Del Monte, they've had amazing, thriving retainer businesses, and it's allowed them financial freedom to be able to create the films they're most passionate about, which we're going to be releasing Mike's feature film. His name is Ray, which got into TIFF, as well as Hot Docs. It's an incredible feature doc. Mike made this while running 3 retainer clients. Highly recommend that. That's over on our AOD Films channel. And the last career path I want to talk about, which I think a lot of you might be interested in, is the content creator. This is someone who is just creating content for consumption on various social media platforms, kind of like what I'm doing right now here on YouTube. The pro of it is you're your own boss. There's endless possibilities. You get to come up with stories, the films, and the content that you are shooting. And if it's done well, it can be very lucrative if you're able to grow your following. The con of this is that it's very, very competitive. And it's at a place where audiences want to hear from those who have a unique perspective, skill set, or experience. I see a lot of people jumping into the content creator space fresh with minimal filmmaking background. And audiences will call you out on that. That doesn't mean you can't start, nor should you. It's great practice to start your channel now and to putting out that content on social media. But nothing beats experience. I would consider working in one of these other career paths, gaining some experience from some other film sets and from some other filmmakers, or some things that are completely unrelated to filmmaking. Some of my favorite filmmakers like Ethan Coen study philosophy. If you watch the films by the Coen brothers, like I think The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, if that's the right name, that last film in that about death and people kind of going to heaven, it's an allegory. It's films like that that really make you think. Or my own career path. I thought I was going to be doing humanitarian work or maybe ministry, and I went that route. And it gave me a base and an experience with people who had way different lived experiences than myself. And that's always informed my filmmaking if you've seen the rest of my films. So not everything you have to do has to be film. So again, I encourage you to grab that PDF and also join our free career building workshop where we're going to be talking more about these different career paths and giving you live Q&A chance to talk about some of these, how to build retainer models, how to be a better freelancer. We're here to help equip you in this journey. It can be confusing. There's so many different paths. One of my favorite quotes I've loved is from a communicator named Andy Stanley. And he always says, borrow a map, but pick a destination. What he means by that is borrow the experience from other people. They've had a map in their career, but pick your own destination. No one has the same calling as you in life, and you need to pick that. But the map you can borrow from some other people. You don't have to keep it. You don't have to do all the exact same steps, but you can learn from their experience. Appreciate you watching this one. Let me know if you have any questions. And actually, one more activity I would love to encourage you to do. If you're made it this far, leave a couple sentences about your career path, where you started, where you are right now, and where you're hoping to go. I'm sure there'll be people who are reading these comment sections who will be encouraged by this, seeing where you've come from, what you've overcome, and what you want to do. And who knows, you might be able to connect with some people from around the globe. This is what we're always doing in AOD, and it's so cool getting to see filmmakers connect with other creatives from all corners of this globe. Awesome. Appreciate you watching this one. I hate goodbyes, but I love weird vintage t-shirts. Days before the rodeo. I've never ridden at a rodeo.
Hey folks, this is where we want to stop here. This is where we want to stop for our lesson today. That's it. So let us meet in class again. And please be frequent in availing yourself of contact classes towards for this remaining 2 weeks towards your final assessment. I hope to see your first cut, and then let's scrutinize and analyze it so that you can get good grades. So that is for me from now. For now, it's adios. Till next time.